This is the exact template I'm using in all my productions, also for my YouTube tutorials, which just makes it really easy to start producing quicker, to mix quicker, just to basically make this whole process go faster, because you don't want to waste days on mixing and uploading plugins and naming channel, because it's just going to be a waste of your time and energy, and you want to make good music. That's why we need to move fast. How's it going, bro? Welcome to this video. In this video, we're going to talk exactly about the updated version of my house music production template. In this case, it's for FL Studio 24. If you don't want to purchase this template, I fully understand that you can also create this template yourself. We're going to go through this template. We're going to explain you exactly why I'm making the decisions I'm making, so you can basically produce faster music. But now let's dive straight into this template. So recently I had this template and I basically made a few tweaks from the last version. The last template version is FL Studio 21. In this case, this version is FL Studio 24. As you can see in the playlist, I have already all the channels assigned, vocal 1 to 5. Basically what I've done here is to give myself more opportunities. So for example, in my first ever template, I had like maybe 2 or 3 drum channels. In this case, now we have 6 drum channels. I have also a few automations, which is already perfectly colored, so you basically don't have to assign those things. There's also a high pass filter here, as you can see, for the kick channel. So for example, if I do this, you're gonna have the kick high pass, which is gonna save you heaps of time, which is perfect for house music production. Also, I have a few samples. I exchange a sample, so we have a cool clap. We have also some sort of hi-hat. It's kind of like a loop that I had in the beginning, which is the whole loop, but I made it shorter. We have the bassline pattern as well. And now let's go a little bit more to the bottom. We have also riser, downfalls, effects, so you can basically just drag the effects into it. It basically goes straight away. I have instrument 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The reason for that is very simple. The goal for house music producers is not to have 7 different instruments. The goal for us is to have layers and to have as much control over those layers as possible. That's exactly why I have multiple instruments with multiple automations as well. As before, there's nothing really changed. I had still the master reverb, which sounds cool, and the master field separation, mono and stereo. And then we have also the high pass filter for the master channel and the low pass filter. Great for transitions. And also master bus volume automation. Cool. As you can see on the left hand side, I have also a few patterns already. So the kick pattern, the kick 2 pattern, which is just a different plugin I'm using, the hi-hat pattern, short hi-hat, which is, there's nothing installed yet, the clap, and then you have your own instrument channel, so you can basically create any instruments that you want to create. Also for the bass line, riser and downfall, and a sidechain button. And the reason for the sidechain pattern is a very simple one. I'm going to explain exactly what I'm talking about. So let's say, for example, in house music, you have multiple kicks playing in the same bar. For example, usually we have 4 kicks, but let's say you want to now add an extra kick. The reason why we're doing this is that this basic pattern here is something you have to put here to the sidechain trigger channel. Make it short, because this sidechain pattern is basically the triggering of the LFO tool on the bass channel 3. So if you have multiple kicks now, the LFO tool doesn't really work with multiple kicks in the same bar. It just goes 4 kicks in 1 bar maximum. If you want to have more, that's exactly why I have this specific automation installed. You're going to basically see it here on bass channel 3. There's this LFO tool. And as you can see, it basically gets triggered every single time we install this pattern. If you just go with the normal 4 on the floor beat and 4 kicks in 1 bar, then it's just going to automatically go with that. Also on the channel rack, I have a few instruments now. So updated in this version, we have Serum 2. Already a preset, which is from Serum itself, so you're not going to have any problems uploading or downloading this. This is kick 2. What I recommend you also to do is just to exchange those plugins yourself. If there's any plugins you don't have, make sure to exchange them with your favorite plugins from FL Studio, whatever you choose. This is just my template. This is the plugins I'm using in my music productions. But if you want to exchange, for example, kick 2 with something else, that's up on you. Then I have also, as I said, this pattern, the clap, a snare, Labs, which is a free plugin as well, you can use perfectly for organic sounds. Then we have also this the M1, which is a paid version. I really like this plugin, has great, especially pianos. And we have also the BBC Symphony Orchestra, which is a free plugin again, has great real sounds. Cool, let's now go straight into the mixer channel. But before we do that, please make sure to like this video right now and subscribe to my channel to not miss out any house music production tutorials in the future. If you're having any troubles with this specific template, just wait until the end of this video. I might be able to help you with that. If there's still something you don't understand, just write it into the comments and tell me what exactly your problem is. We might be able to solve it over the comment section, or just shoot me a message over Instagram. On the mixer channel, we're gonna basically make this now big. We have in total, instead of 50, now we have 60 mixer channels. The reason for that is very simple. I'm not using 60 mixer channels each of my productions, but I want to have as much control over each layer of sound as possible. So bass 1 to 3 stays the same. I have 3 bass channels. Usually I just use 1, maximum 2 if I want to do some parallel processing. So usually my bass channel 3 is the go-to channel where you can basically upload your bass plugin. Then I have a few plugins. KHS distortion, which is just my just an option. So I have like saturation options, saturation knob, which is also a free plugin. Then we have the RBass mono, which is a paired version, which costs probably like $30 or something, which is really cheap, but is a great saturation tool for all my bassline sounds. Then we have the decapitator. I have basically 4 saturation plugins here because I want to be able to choose which ones I want to use. Then we have Soothe 2, which is probably the best plugin I've been ever using in my life. It basically cuts away harsh frequencies, or you can also use it perfectly for multi-band sidechain compression. There's also another video where I'm explaining exactly how to do that, but this is a great tool, and you can do multi-band sidechain compression, for example, with the kick connected to the bass channel with 0% volume, which is already in the template, as you can see. Really, really easy to use. Then we have the Arouser, which is a paid plugin. It's a compressor basically, but I personally have not been using this, so I'm going to probably just replace this one with the Fruity Limiter. I've been using heaps of Fruity Limiters in my productions, and the typical filter I'm using is the Parametric EQ2, which is this one here. I'm not really using any fancy plugins. If you listen to music on Spotify, you're going to realize that my music sounds quite good mixed, but not like crazy amazing. But this is exactly how I'm achieving it with those kinds of plugins, with high-pass, low-pass filter from FL Studio. Then we have the bass bus. So for example, all those bass channels go straight to the bass bus. On the bass bus, that goes straight here to the right side to the master bus. On the bass bus, there's just a few things. I don't really do much on the bass bus, so I just have it for the sake of being able to control all the bass layers or the volume at once. Then I have the kick channel, which goes also into the bass bus. The kick channel itself, usually I have also the decapitator, a few saturation plugins, the LFO tool just to see how long the kick is, so I can use the LFO tool on the bass channel. Again, LFO tool, parametric EQ. Then we have the kick 2, which is just a layer if we want to have multiple layers for the bass sound or for the kick sound. Then we have the hi-hats. Saturation relay is a stereo plugin as well, which I can't see because of whatever reason. And yeah, just a classic plugin. So every time I start with saturation on top, and the lower I go to compression, then I go to EQ. Sometimes I add an EQ before the compression because the compression adds harmonics. And if I want to, for example, add specific harmonics in the top end, I put an EQ before the saturation and then maybe an EQ after to cut away the lows. But that really depends on what I'm making. Then I have the high reverb channel. So we have control over the reverb of the highs, because you might want to have the reverb of the highs a little bit different than from the claps. That's why I have a clap reverb channel. But then we have also a drum reverb channel here. So if you want to, let's say you want to, in every single element you want to have the same reverb, then you're just gonna have to do this, 0% for the high reverb channel, and just increase the volume here at the drum reverb channel, which is then makes it really easy for you to get the same reverb for all the specific elements. And yeah, then let's go to the drum bus. On the drum bus, I have the Fruity Limiter, which is responsible for, it's basically sidechain compression. So the kick is connected to this one. If I go, for example, on the compression section, you're gonna hear Actually, no. So for example, the fruity limiter here is responsible for just limiting out those really intense, those really intense sounds which are really loud in the DAW, just to cut it away. Then we have a parallel aggressor, which is another saturation plugin, and Soothe 2 to cut away the harsh frequencies, especially for hi-hats, which is the biggest reason why you have usually clashing frequencies. Then let's go to the drum delay. We have a drum delay channel as well, which you can, any channel you want, you can just connect it and just do this, bum, and then you have the delay for example, for a snare. For example, the hi-hats, we just connect, do this. If you want to do this for whatever reason, that's totally up on you. And yeah, and then there's the same principle as before in my old house music production template. We have basically instrument 1 till instrument 11, and each instrument has one auxiliary channel. The reason for that is very simple. We want to basically influence and have as much control over the reverb, for example, or the delay as possible. So for example, here's the high instrument bus, which has 3 limiters. The reason why we're having this is because each limiter is it's basically acting as a sidechain compressor. So for example, the kick, for example, is connected to the high instrument bus with 0% volume, as you can see here. The high vocal bus is also connected to the high instrument bus. The reason for that is because I want to make sure that every single time, for example, the vocals are playing, I want the instruments to duck down in, for example, with the fruity limiter, or with Soothe 2 to do the multiband sidechain compression, which basically creates more clarity, because as you remember in mixing, it's important that you create a hierarchy of elements. On top you have usually the kick, then you have the vocals, then you have the instruments, maybe the bass goes also somewhere here on the top, then you have all the reverb and stuff, which is all on the bottom, which needs to be sidechained to those very, very important 2 to 3 elements. That's exactly why I connected those channels to the high instrument bus. Because the high instrument bus is not the most important element usually. Depending on what you produce, you can obviously exchange it and remove it, but that's the way how I've done it. Then we have vocals 1, 2, 3, and 4. My vocal chain usually looks always the same. I have usually Melodyne, which is a plugin where you can basically influence the pitch of notes. It's kind of basically an auto-tune, but you can do it manually. Then we have the capitator. I really like using the sound godizer. It's a great plugin, usually with the C setting, which makes for especially female vocals sound very clean and crispy. Then after that, I always use a plugin, which is, for example, the arouser, or I still like to use a fruity limiter in compression setting. Honestly, heaps of times. So I'm gonna save this and exchange a arouser, because I think mostly no one has this plugin, so it's better if you exchange it with a free version. Then we have the same here. We can also have the short reverb for the vocals, the long reverb, you just do this, tuck tuck, and the vocal delay. And then on the master bus, we have the vintage verb, which is the master automation. You can obviously exchange this with your plugin or the fruity reverb, whatever you want. We have fruity balance to basically make the whole thing louder, because as you can see, all the channels here are at 90% volume, not at 100. Because if all of them would be 100, now we're gonna have a massive clipping problem here in the master channel. So I kept it at a good level, so it's kind of balanced. Yeah, and then on the master channel itself, the real master channel, I don't do any mixing. Everything I have there is just ozone 9 to potentially, master it if my DAW allows it, if I haven't used too many plugins, because this is a very process heavy template. Then we have levels, which is telling me how loud the mix is, also with the LUFS. And then of course we have span that I exchange with Spectrum Analyzer, because my span doesn't work anymore, but this is obviously your choice. I do this so I can see which frequencies we're working on at the moment. It does the same as span, so just for you to visually see what's going on. And I have Mix Checker Pro, which is a plugin where you can basically see and emulate where you're listening to your music, which I think is great because I'm using this a lot in a lot of productions. If you obviously don't want to get this specific house music production template, make sure to go on gumroad.com. The link for that is under this video. Purchase it for yourself. It costs less than $10. It makes it really easy to produce music. Already 30 people bought this template. You might be the 35th or the 40th. I'm really grateful. I'm happy for you guys that you can use this. Obviously there's a reason why so many people purchased it already, but yeah, just continue using it. Tweak it a little bit. If you're obviously a Windows user, you're not going to be able to use this because this is specifically for Apple users, but I really hope this will help you. I hope you could also build this template yourself. Hope this helped you a little bit, and I'll see you, bro, in the next video.